Call the workshop to order then. Mr. Lewis is joining us, so we'll do a call to order the workshop of the Common Council at 5:31. We'll have a roll call, please.
Councilperson Yon.
Present.
Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Gill.
Here.
Council President Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Councilperson Rodriguez.
Present.
Let the record reflect that are 7 council members present.
All right.
Ed just texted, he said he'll be here in 2 minutes.
All right. Chief, if you'd like to get us going down this journey. Just before you get started, Chief McVoy and Chief Kavanaugh and Ms. Langley met with Lisa and myself, Mr. Samuel, last week to discuss what he's going to discuss tonight. And we just thought it was something that everybody needed to hear before we move forward with any decision making. Chief, take it away.
Well, Chief Kavanaugh's out at the watching his son graduate, so I'm here tonight in his place. And as the council president stated, we met a couple weeks ago in reference to 3 areas. The first being overtime fund, which routinely or generally we come in this time of year in advance and ask for what it's going to take to get us through the rest of the year. From I think we estimated through the second week of September to the end of the year. And that request was an additional fund to be appropriated in the overtime line of $145,000. It's a little higher than last year. We've had a couple of events and more SWAT call-outs than usual. And also aggravating our overtime situation is we have had a lot of people on light duty and FMLA the first 6 months of this year. Some are pregnancies, some are long-term injuries. That affects the shift overtimes to the point where we don't have any choice to fill the slot so the shift doesn't work short. We have to pay overtime. There's just no way around that. The longer term injuries, the good note is we only have 1 now that's long term, and they should be coming back in a month or 2, I think, hopefully. But at one point it looked like an infirmary ward in the lobby up front, but we whittled that down, and we have 1 pregnancy. So that's affected our overtime. So $145,000 estimated to get us through the end of the year, provided there's no large-scale incidents or anything that requires some type of act of God or something. That's the first item. The second item that we discussed was our laptops. Last year we took we bought 20 laptops for, I believe, close to $78,000. And what we're trying to do is, instead of coming to the council and saying, hey, by the way, our laptops are expired and they're going on 8 or 9 years, that's where we're at right now. They're 7 going into 8 years old. Normal lifespan's 5 on these tough books. So that being said, is we're starting to exceed the life, and the chief and I are trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can and try to do these in chunks while we still have the laptops in service out there. But we're starting to see some batteries leaking and screens cracking and losing power. I've spoke with the rep as far as when we recycle these old laptops, and basically he's telling me that $100 to $200 on a trade-in. $100 if we're lucky. If we can't upgrade the old laptop, or they can't upgrade the old laptops to Windows 7, they're useless. So I just find it hard to believe a $4,500 laptop is worth $100 after 6 or 7 years, but that's according to the rep. Because I'm trying to find a buyback program to where we can at least recoup some money. I still have to talk to Matt Dyer to see if there's another option to, when we have all 90 of our new laptops, what I can do with the other 90 to save us some money.
No, just for clarification, you're referring to as laptops are actually the tough books that are in the police units,
In the patrol
correct?
cars, yes.
Okay.
So that's why they're $4,500 a piece, or at least retail 8 years ago.
Yeah, the current price roughly you're looking at about $3,400. Is that right, Ann?
And did you say you were wanting to replace 20 of them?
This year, we'd like to replace 30. We replaced 20 last year.
Okay.
So that would bring us up to 50. And then in 17, we hopefully, if I can do something with these trade-ins, hopefully we can knock out the other 40 or just do another 20 and get us to the point where,
Just under 3,800.
yeah, just $3,800 a piece. So we factor the Giotto desks, or which is the laptop Toughbook mount inside the car. We factor that into the new vehicles. The unfortunate part is with these laptops is manufacturers seem to change the mounting system itself inside the car to where some of the mounts that we have in our older vehicles will not fit the new CF31, so they basically force you to buy a new mount for each laptop. Some of the ones that we have, we can switch over, but we're going to have to buy some mounts, and those average about $450 a piece. Again, we're looking to try to buy those in bulk to where we can save some more money on our laptops. So, sorry.
So was the $3,400 if you bought in bulk with the 30, but they're actually an individual's $3,800, or is it?
The quote I have on the 30 laptops through the vendor is, with a 3-year protection plan, total $116,250.
Thank you.
That's for 30 laptops, CF31s, which are, it's the equivalent to what we have now, it's just a newer version. So, again, we didn't want to come in here and say, hey, by the way, we need to buy 70 laptops at the cost of $270,000. We just thought it would be easier to break it down into sections, unless, that's what you all prefer, is for us to come and buy in bulk for 90 laptops, but we just figured that'd be a huge price tag. 20 or 30 is a little bit easier. The ones that we have now, we have a pretty good group that will last us, I think, another year or so, but we're starting to experience some, like I said, some leaking batteries and problems that are going to start costing us money.
In the 30, that number you gave, the 116, that does not include the 450 each for the mounts.
Yes, we still need to determine, of these 30, how many mounts we have right now that will fit. I believe we have around 15, so we're I'm
You
sorry.
ordered 20 mounts for something that's on tonight's claims.
That's for the ones that we already have.
Oh,
That's for the current 20 that we bought at the end of,
the new ones you just got. Okay.
but we still need to check to see, I think it's going to be around, the number's going to be around 15 mounting systems, so.
You surprised.
How many do you have left to buy total?
We have 20 now, so we'd like to get the number around 90. We're at 81 officers. That will leave us a couple extra. We intend to add new officers over the course of the next couple of years. We won't have to scramble for more laptops. But if we can get to 85, that would help us out. So,
When you buy a new squad car, does that not come with the squad car?
no.
That's something you have to buy separately?
No. The cost of the laptop, the mount, anything extra, radars, anything extra that you put it, that does not come with the car. You have to build that separately. So those are all separate cost items.
But we have requested moving forward that we add that into the new officer, the car,
The laptop
and
goes
mount.
with the officer
Right.
because whether or not they have a car or not, they have to have that laptop
Right.
for training when they start. So we incorporate that into the equipment for an officer. As far as the equipment for a vehicle, it's on a separate group.
Right. As we had asked, I think it was one of the finance, when we were doing that plan, wasn't it? We had asked moving forward that for each additional officer, that we know the total price, not just their salary, what it takes to equip that
Right.
officer.
That's, in my opinion, that's the best way to, as you acquire a new officer, to build everything within that new officer, whether it's car, laptop, rifles, shotguns, everything that's associated. The cost obviously has gone up from, what it was 5 years ago, but at least you have that equipment. God forbid something were to happen or somebody quit unexpectedly. Now you can start to stockpile some reserves for, hey, my laptop's broken, and you don't have to go out and buy a $4,000 laptop. You have one to give to another officer. So that's the benefit of doing it that way. which I think is the best way to do it per officer.
What's the model of the old ones that you're going to get rid of? And
They're
what's the model?
CF31s, Panasonic,
31s?
yes.
And then the one you're going to,
It's the same tags,
54?
CF31. No, it's the same CF31. It just has a different Intel processor. They look exactly alike as far as the tough books are concerned. But the price that I have from Mobile Tech was per unit, $3,100, and then you have to add the CD drive, and it's recommended you get the Protection Plus warranty, because if we don't and something happens in the car to a laptop, and now we're out $3,200 for a tough book. So
Do you think we would be able to sell them for more if we just sold them ourselves?
I need to talk to Matt Dyer about that. Obviously, this guy's a salesman, so he's probably not wanting to give me top price for what we have. So I'm going to get with Matt and see if we can get, I'd like to see us get $300 or $400 per laptop, but they said if they can't upgrade them to Windows 7, they're useless. I just find that hard to believe.
But Scott, in their state statute that we have to follow with the city.
Supposed to follow it, depending on value. Yeah, I mean, if it's under a certain value, you can just kind of dispose of it without following the procedure, so it all depends on what the market value.
Right. And Matt knows more outlets than I do of selling laptops and getting more money for them, but I think that's the goal.
I would imagine there would be a market for people wanting that type of
Yeah, on our end, we just have to wipe it clean, and it's ready for sale. So I say there's some ray of hope there as far as getting more money than $100. I wasn't born yesterday, but that's what he gave me today. So that's the laptops. And the last and final item was the chief's plan was to purchase this year, in addition to what we have, 6 vehicles for the school resource officers and captains, a 2016 Dodge Charger for our traffic division, and a Dodge 1500, similar to what the Clark County Sheriff has for our truck operations, our special operations vehicle. That amount, fully spec'd out with lights, everything ready to go, minus a computer, is $228,000. Basically, we're in a crunch for cars right now. I think we were in the same position that we were this time last year when we came in and discussed all this. Replacing the school resource officers' cars and the captains, that would put us 4 more marked cars on the street. So right now, it's hard for the cars that we're planning on getting rid of or moving out of the fleet. We can't. They're used as line cars. And then with the new hires and the kids in FTO and the 2 that we're putting in the academy now, well, we're at the point to where we are, we're right there. We have like 1 extra car. That was odd. Somebody's trying to drop you a note.
Message from above.
Can I see that, just in case? But we have like, right now, and it's been a very good summer as far as not having breakdowns, but we have 1 extra car. We have these FTOs. Those are new officers. They cannot be in any type of unmarked vehicle while they're out on the road as a new officer. They have to be in marked cars. So with this plan, replacing the 4 school resource officers' vehicles, that will provide us 4 extra marked vehicles for these new guys. The traffic division is the chief's goal, was to get that started. He has that up and running. It's right now we're about 5 hours a day of running traffic in different areas of the city. So basically, people call my office just about every day, no matter what neighborhood or wherever, and I take the complaints, concerns, and issues, and then we'll send that traffic officer out to that area. And then we just did a blitz on 10th Street the other day for texting and driving. I don't know if you all saw the signs out there, but we were out targeting texting and distracted drivers. So that Dodge Charger will be utilized solely for that. That would be a slick top, unmarked Dodge Charger. And then the last would be the Dodge 1500 for special operations, and that's to pull the signs around. We can also use it. That's a multi-use type vehicle, obviously for the winter. We can use it to pull signs around. We can use it to run traffic, do surveillance. That is a very unique tool for us to be able to have. And again, you can use that truck for just about anything.
So it's a total of 6 vehicles, is that correct?
It would be,
Is it 8?
8?
we're a total of 6 vehicles for the school resource officers,
Oh,
which
6.
those 6 would be Dodge Durangos.
Okay.
Is that so they can detain lots of kids, or I'm curious why you need Durango?
Well, actually, they've got, one is it replaces the marked vehicles that are at the school now. And some of those guys, what's happened is it's given you a more tactical advantage as far as being at the school. Most people say, oh, well, it's nice, there's a marked car in front of the school. But a lot of school corporations have gotten away from the marked vehicle for these officers to be in the Durangos. Again, the Durango's a multi-use thing. You get in the wintertime, that's another luxury for us to have, because obviously school's going to be closed, and we can use that out on the street. But at the school itself, a lot of corporations and the resource officers have gotten away from the marked vehicle concept into putting them into the Durango concept or unmarked vehicle. Just, you could set that officer out in the parking lot. There's a lot more you can do without being realized, hey, there's a police car right out in front of the front doors.
This Dodge truck that you're going to use to pull stuff, what happened to the huge dually truck that the...
We still have that. That's for we pull the boat, and that's special operations as well. With the Dodge 1500, again, for the traffic, some of the other things that we have planned as far as proactive policing, that unit that's out on the street, that truck would be huge to have as far as what we could accomplish crime-wise and traffic-wise. So the Charger and the truck would be used simultaneously. The truck just gives you the extra benefit of pulling those signs around. Just multi-use. We're trying to mix it up as best we can.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. 6 vehicles for a school resource officer
And 2 captains.
and 2 captains, so that's a total of 8 right there.
No, you have four resource officers, 2 captains.
Okay.
Right now, the captains are in 2008 Crown Vics, and the mileages on those are 110,000 and 90,000.
And do you sell those vehicles after you're done with them?
No, those Crown Vics, we'll have to keep those as line cars right now, because we're just about,
And then my next question is where are we getting these vehicles?
those vehicles will be purchased from John Jones,
In Corden?
Salem.
How come we're not going to Bales and Jeff?
We went to Bales initially, went and spoke with them before we went anywhere else, sat down with Bales, asked them to provide us the specific information related to police vehicles, and they really had nothing to provide us as compared to fleet sales service. So obviously John Jones is probably the largest police dealer in the state of Indiana. We went and looked there. He's got a whole
Use them on the lot.
lot dedicated to police operations.
And they do, like, all the
Well, I took
repairs
some
and
of those
stuff there
questions,
too,
is why
don't
I'm
they?
asking.
Right.
I was told that the police department was in the business of used car sales, so I'm going to ask you that question.
Mhm.
You know, and you seem to answer it pretty good. I don't have no problem with that.
When we had the workshop, we pretty much gave the police back their budget, but before I'd been meeting with the administration, I knew about the OT and pretty much knew, in my eyes, the laptops are a necessity.
Yeah, they have to have.
I don't know where I personally support the Durangos and all that right now, because we pretty much said your budget's your budget. Now, if something's needed like that Charger for traffic division, I know that's probably a need, but why do we have to look at these now versus come budget workshop time, budget hearings?
When will that be?
We're going to be starting them in August.
All right. So
We're already in July.
to answer the question as to why it would be
Why is it a necessity for you're asking for these now?
Right. To answer that question is, with the 7 guys that I have coming out of FTO, or actually 5, and then 2 that will be coming closer to the end of the year. Right now, with them in their assigned vehicles, I am 1 car short. I'm actually 1 short, without the ability to have line cars. So if we start having breakdowns in equipment, which is common, I'm going to have 2-man units for a while. So if we purchase these Durangos, rotate the cars out of the school resource officers. That gives me 4 more marked cars now that I can use during that time until we purchase our next set of cars, which will be in 17.
Okay, and I was kind of doing a little sidebar here with Sky, but I don't want to put him on the spot. Why a Durango versus the Charger or why does it have to be the SUV Durango, which I know the price of those are a little bit more.
Yeah, they're I think,
How does that benefit the resource officer?
just the ability to have the extra room in the vehicle. They do transport kids. The ability for the all-weather situations, that's been a big thing here recently, at least the last couple of winters. And again, the 4 of them for the SROs it's just a multi-use. I mean, you get the meat and bones with the Dodge Charger. You know what that's for. You're out, you're taking calls in it, you're up and down the street doing traffic with it. So you have the capability to do a little bit more with the SUV versus the Charger. That's the only reason.
What's the price difference, Chief, between the Durango and the Charger?
Can I have that manila envelope, please? I just did the Dodge Chargers, don't quote, they're 32,640 on the 2016 Dodge Charger all-wheel drive. On the 2016 Dodge Ram Crew Cab, now this is vehicle, lights, this is the whole package, street ready minus the laptop and stand. On the Dodge Ram, 35,930. And that could be a couple $100 cheaper if we decide to use a different console for the radio. And then on the Durangos, with a standard console, you're looking at 38,758. And that's, again, with everything, lights, sirens.
About 6,000 per car.
So you're about 5,000 and change more for a Durango versus a Charger.
And Chief, you said these that we're purchasing here, or you're looking at purchasing, will be unmarked.
You'll have, and again, that decision hasn't been made final. The Dodge Charger, which for traffic, it's desired to be unmarked. We're still not 100% certain on the truck. I think for what we're going to use it for, as far as proactive policing and traffic, I think it should be left unmarked, but you can always go wrap it if you needed to, if you wanted to make it a dare vehicle, which that's not our intention. On the Durangos, 2 of those are for the captains to replace those 2008 Crown Victorias. Those will be unmarked, and then you'll have 4 for the schools. We tried in the past with the Dodge Charger that had I called it the Tony the Tiger, like dare thing on it. We actually still have that, and we're still using it for proactive policing. So we're not, we could go either way with it. It's about $350 to stripe it if we needed to. And if that's, what's best for what our operation is, and that's what we'll do.
Just comments from the Finance Committee meeting. We wanted the full council to hear this. There's about $500,000 worth of requests out here for us. We're mid-year. We had to cut our budget because of the caps. Most of these type things for the police, the equipment, well, all this, the overtime, all the above, we could use Lloyd for. However, our Lloyd balances are not strong. They're going backwards instead of growing. And so it's just a concern that I don't feel comfortable saying, oh, well, you need this or you don't need that, because I'm not in your shoes, and,
right.
and that's not my call. But my call or my responsibility is just to, do we have the money? And we talked to the chief or chiefs about, last time we had Lloyd, we tried to say, here's your pot of money from Lloyd. You assess the coming year and determine what you need. Some way that got misconstrued or something, like we were trying to change things up for them, and so the communication wasn't good. But the intent was, if we give you $750,000, a bucket of money, you determine out of all your stuff what you want to spend it on, what's priorities. And so they've I think most of their LOIT for this year is earmarked already. And then we just have to determine, how much do we want to go into that fund reserve. It's not the police's responsibility to worry about the fire, but we know that those that have been here and they've seen before know right when we approve this, the fire department's coming right behind with emergency needs. And so we just have to try to weigh that, determine that, and see what we're comfortable with on from the financial standpoint. That's just, I guess, my thoughts or what's going on up here.
And in tonight's claims, we do have 2 new Tahoes the police department purchased. The fire department, I'm sorry. That's in our tonight's claims.
I have a question, and
Yes, sir.
This is not loaded in any way, new guy. Did we just discover that we had these new police officers? Why was this not budgeted through the budgeting process for last year? If we had to have known we were adding people, why are we getting this now, and why wasn't this taken care of
Right.
more than 7 months ago?
Right, I understand. 2 of them were unexpected leaves. Detective Hartman and another officer just moved on to different departments, different career. So there's 2. We just hired 2, which they haven't even started the academy. So of your 7, there's 4 right there that we're still in the process of getting replacements for, which is part of this issue is, and I've only been here in this capacity in a year. Last year, Major Hubbard's been here longer than I have. And it's of my opinion that we've been purchasing cars, in my opinion, the wrong way. I think right now where we're at, it's like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul with these cars and hoping that the 2007s, 8s, and 9s are going to last us, where we never made a huge bulk purchase of cars, which I know it's hard to do. When I say bulk purchase, I'm talking like 15 to 20 in that effect. When you do the 5 or 6 per year and you try to rotate certain cars out, and the detective division needs are different than the administrative needs versus patrol needs, and you're coming in year after year and you're going, okay, well, I'm going to replace 4 administrator vehicles, and I'm going to purchase 3 patrol vehicles for a total of 7 per year, and that chews up most of your funds there. And then you hire 3 more officers, and now you need to find 3 more cars. So then you resort to, let's go get the oldest ones that we have. And then those 3 officers are, and so be it. They're new, they get older vehicles. Well, when you take from that pool of those line cars or those extra spare cars that you have, you're just taking those cars and putting them right back into service. So you really haven't made headway into having vehicles that are going to be around for a longer period of time, if that makes any sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's just like right now with these 7, they're going to be in these older Crown Vics. We don't have anything to replace them with. They're at that mileage of 110, 120,000 miles, which I know the county is a little bit different. Some of their cars, our mileage and our driving is a little bit different than what they do out in the county. Still, we're in a constant position of where we have to come in here every year and say, hey, we need to get these 5 or 6 vehicles, or we would like to get these 5 or 6 vehicles because here's our plan for down the road. Because I'm pretty sure that sometime in the next year we're going to hire at least a couple more officers. I don't know what the COPS grant has in store for us and what 2017 is going to be like, because we haven't decided that yet, but there's 4 more. So if I'm 1 short now, I'll be back here at some point saying, hey, I need 5 cars just for us to be at the minimum to where, God forbid, if a car breaks down with these Caprices, it seems to be a constant issue. We've had, in our last lot of cars, how many did we take up there, 12? We had 12 cars with 20 recalls on them. Power steering's locking up. It's just, and when you take that car off the street, then you take that officer and put him in a line car, and now you're out 2 cars basically. And you're at the mercy with these caprices of parts and service. And- yeah.
In the past, what they would do is they would approve budgets to help recycle vehicles, get the old ones off, get newer ones on. But whenever we started adding additional officers, there was never funding to add new cars for additional officers. So now we're to the last of our life to where if we add any more officers, we don't have any cars to put them in. So that's what's happened in the past. We would get funding for salaries and everything else, but as far as equipment, cars, that, it never got added on top. That was
So you said that you don't like the way we're doing it. Would you say to rectify that, what we should do is you should project how many officers we'll hire next year, and then in the next budget, you should be including cars that don't need to exist yet? Is that what we should be doing?
Yeah, if you know that you're going to add 3 additional officers to the department, we need to say, do we have enough cars, or do we need to buy cars for them? Because that kind of gets lost in the mix, and then as we become where we are now,
Well, because where I'm at, and I understand if you're short cars, you got to have a car. But where I'm coming in, Lisa kind of hit on this. To me, as somebody who's just my first go around with this, a car shouldn't be an emergency expenditure. So whatever we have to do to get the lot bigger, then that's fine. But it just seems odd that we didn't know that we were going to have cars. And so that I'd be much more, and not saying that I'm against getting the cars that you need, but having it part of the normal budgetary process. And I don't even know how far in advance we know we're going to get new officers, because I don't know the way the grants fall, and they may not fall on calendars that are convenient for everyone. But yeah, this is...
And like we discussed earlier, Ms. Gill, was when we hire a new officer, we should take all that into account. So I guess you get into the projection of, okay, we're going to hire 4 guys in 2017, January 1. So you know right off the bat there's 4 cars that you're going to need right off the bat. And then you need to take a look at, and when we do a pretty good job of this, taking a look at our fleet and finding out what the higher mileages cars are, and we're trying to redistribute those to the guys that are new. But you're still going to have that purchase of 6 or 7 vehicles, let's just say, on top of the 4. So now you're at 11. Usually detectives and admin vehicles last a little bit longer. But again, I agree with you 100%. When we we can't get that lost in the mix as far as when we hire new officers, that should just be an automatic projected, hey, right off the bat, 4 cars are coming. 40, not necessarily for those guys, but...
And I understand the conundrum you're in. You're asking the council at budget time for vehicles for people who don't exist yet.
Right.
And we may not be willing to give cars to Fantasy.
Right. That's the projection. Not to say that if you did do that and we didn't hire, that we would have extra cars, but but that was the thinking as far as the Durangos. I hope I explained that, to replace the marked vehicles that are out to schools now with those Durangos. The 2 captains are already in unmarked vehicles, unmarked Crown Vics. We could take those 4 back, put those with our newer guys, and then send these Durangos out. The traffic division and the truck with proactive and traffic, that will be probably assigned to older officers who sign up for those details for the traffic division. And most of our new guys they may do it as an overtime detail in a blitz, but it won't be an assigned take-home vehicle.
I'm like I said before, I'm just concerned that, when we approved this year's budget, it was to match our revenue coming in. We had the additional appropriation that we gave to give them their budget back. So everything we keep adding, you got to remember what can be sustained, what can't be sustained. So that's why I said moving forward, if we need to put more officers in the budget or wherever the request is, that's why they're asking for 3 officers. That includes car, everything that goes with them. So we'll know something, plan for it in the budget. But I'm just concerned going way outside the lines here with Durangos for resource officers. And if they're down a car, then let's get that car. I don't know. I'm just really concerned with, of course, I don't know if people pay attention to our budget is not, but when I sat down with Heather and we pulled out what expenditures and already halfway through the year, I'm really concerned. And that's just me, so. And then again, I want to give them what they need, but it's this juggling act.
I will say, from my experience as a police officer, my job at the county is I'm supervisor over the school resource officers. They do have quite a bit more equipment for daily use, things like, it sounds crazy, but coloring books, stickers, things like that. They do events, and they do transport more children around than we have those too. I'll get you one.
A minivan.
Car
Get them a
seats.
minivan.
But they do, there is times, weekly that our officers will transport 2 or 3 kids, due to situations. And Chargers are, I don't know if you guys have been in one, they are a little cramped. By the time, the trunk space is very, very small, which leads to your front seat pretty much with the laptop and all your other equipment being there, along with some equipment usually in the back seat also. You usually have room to transport 1, possibly 2 people in a Charger.
That's a daily occurrence here in Jeff with the schools that we have. If you're not picking up kids, you're transporting parents who don't have a ride from one part of the city to another, or you're picking up a truant kid, so you're constantly calling out on the radio, they're here, they're there, they're dropping this kid off, and the car seats, which, if you haven't heard, we're a certified car seat inspection station now.
Chief, when you say you're picking up kids, are you picking up more than one kid?
I know, I'm just saying, in general, you may have multiple officers. You may have one from River Valley taking a kid somewhere. You may have one from the high school taking someone somewhere. So I'm not saying that, we're a taxi service or anything, but it occurs on a more than regular basis. Kids that are in trouble, kids that get sent home, kids that never make it to school, kids that get picked up on the side of the road.
Sure.
3 hours late.
Not specific to this conversation about these specific vehicles, but I would say that having a fleet that is, with some SUVs and some vehicles, is beneficial to the local police department. As in, instead of tying up 2 officers to take 2 people to jail, you can tie up 1 officer and put them both in an SUV, which isn't going to be possible in a Charger. And I'm not talking about this specific situation here, but it is nice to have a diverse fleet throughout the city.
I would imagine, and with the weather too, it's probably nice to have a few vehicles that can handle more, different types of.
I wasn't against the Durangos. I'm just concerned about all the restraints that we've had this budget year to
Right.
look at providing new vehicles for the resource officers at this time.
Right.
We're needing to put a couple of the marked units on the street, and the SROs are not patrol officers. They are school resource officers, and at any point, there's several of them are DARE officers. At any point, you can go look in their cars, and they're packed with boxes of, whatever it may be, coloring books, T-shirts, or other things that, schools might want to transport stuff back and forth to schools. So this is a way we can meet their needs as SRO officers, give them a little more room, and yet we're also putting marked units on the street. Instead of just buying a marked unit and putting it on the street, that's just one dimension, we're only satisfying one need. This way, we're trying to do a double take when we're helping them out as well, putting cars on the street. That's the reason we're coming asking for Durangos.
How many SUVs do you have now?
We have 1, 2, 3. We have 4 K9 Tahoes, which are specific for the dogs. No, we have 5. I'm sorry. One's a task force vehicle, and then the shift commander has 2 Tahoes for the shift commanders. One of the shift commanders is already a K9 handler, so he has that already. So it saved us one. And then the administrative, the chief still has his, and I still have mine.
So you
Which
got
they're administrative
so there's
cars.
9
total.
total Tahoes.
No, 10. You'll have his too. It's a 2010.
Chief, are you going to attempt to try to phase out the Caprices? Like, we don't look at the Caprices again in the future?
No, in my opinion, first of all, the Caprices are going to cost you more. just right off the bat, sticker price. For how we have them lighted, full package, they're going to cost you an average of $3,000 per car or more. And then it seems over in the course of the past 12 to 16 months, we've just had a continual issue. If it's not a recall, power steering, car just shuts off and locks up. God forbid we've had some fender benders where we've had to wait 2-3 months for parts to come from Australia, which, City Garage has really helped us out as far as getting those cars back up and running, but that's our intention. The Chargers, outside of the looks, the guys really seem to like them. They're much more compatible to what they're doing. The Caprices were a little bit smaller for our larger officers. We have a couple of our larger, taller officers. I don't mean larger this way, but taller, in those Chargers now. And I have not heard one complaint as far as space and the way it's designed and set up. The comments we've gotten are, hey, this is a police officer's car, and you know what that means as far as the way it's set up and how it's built. So
I believe the Caprice is a police-specific vehicle only, right? So
yes,
the equipment and things like that are a little bit more expensive and more time-consuming.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
I got one more question, then I'm done.
Yes, sir.
And this, I don't want to sound like I'm being facetious or rude or anything, but if you're in a Tahoe, how many times do you transport a prisoner to the jail?
Me?
Yeah.
As assistant chief?
Yep.
Slim to none, but I'll do it if I have to.
Okay, so my question is if we have 10 Tahoes, they can hold, 2 prisoners?
Mm-hmm.
And the shift commanders are driving them around and the K-9 have them. Would it be better to get those on the street to the officers?
We have those in the form of the K-9 vehicles. The Chargers are all-wheel drive. As far as transporting, you can't have a shift commander transport a prisoner to the jail because that takes him off the street and there's no one there to supervise the street operations. But the shift commander has to have the ability to get wherever he needs to go.
He's carrying a lot of supplies for you guys if he arrives on scene.
Well, he's basically the incident commander unless the SWAT team or one of us is called out to an incident. So basically at any point in time, he's in charge of police operations in the city. So they don't transport prisoners unless he, for some reason, absolutely has to, or if he's working a special detail or something like that. Me as assistant chief, I'm not above it. I'll do it, but
Well, I was just trying to figure out if we're talking about transporting somebody who breaks a crime. I mean,
and normally that's
I
just
campaigned on police safety.
right.
So I'm totally behind the police and fire department, but I want to make sure that we do it very responsibly.
Right.
And, I'm kind of there with Lisa on shortfalls in budget and Mr. Hawkins. So, and I would also like to request that I get a ride-along with maybe a shift commander. This week I'm on vacation, so it would be the best time to do that.
Major Hubbard, you can arrange that?
Got the perfect person.
But as far as supervisors and administrators and the chief and this, patrol is where you're going to be transporting people to the Sallyport. It's not specific but to have a supervisor at Tahoe to get to the East End and Salem Noble Road if there's an incident or wherever in the city for that matter is almost critical.
Well, I would like it's up for the majority, but I would like for us to look at each one individually. Maybe we can make a motion to give them the go-ahead. And just keep in mind that, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I know what this budget can support, and I know with the overtime and the laptops I'm going to support, but the vehicles, I just can't support that this time. If we could just do it individually rather than lumping it all together, because I don't want to vote against something that I know is needed and we can afford.
To that, we talk about the 145 for overtime. Mr. Samuel had mentioned we could use the LEAP for all 3 of these. We've never used the LEAP for overtime or salaries or anything like that. And I know in the finance meeting we talked about, Ms. Langley, we talked about the last couple of years your overtime budget has always exceeded what we budgeted for this year. No, I think we budgeted less this year because we anticipated, less overtime with the more officers that we hired, but those officers just aren't cut loose on the road yet.
That's correct.
So they've done absolutely nothing to alleviate any of your overtime issues.
And adding to that is, and I think it's fantastic, but the amount and the size of the events downtown are also putting not a strain, but is adding to the availability for over, because we have to provide officers down to those areas. No one can predict an Orlando-type setting, but when they had the Pride Parade, it's our responsibility to make sure it's safe for everyone in the city of Jeffersonville and its visitors, which is, you're calling out, how many guys do we have out? 25, 30 guys?
Yes.
So, and that's a full 12-hour day.
And Heather's not here, but didn't we determine in finance that there's no more money in Lloyd, that it's appropriated to the max? So all this will be done out of reserves, correct?
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear to make sure I got that right.
I think we've done overtime in the past, haven't we?
We've done
For fire or police or what?
We've appropriated more for overtime the last couple of years out of the general fund, which I'd be supportive of doing again. We need to consider the fire department is running close on theirs also. So I'm sure they will have a similar request soon. The other two items, if we're going to approve something, I would say we need to approve them out of Lloyd. There's no room on our revenue that's coming in for 2016. If we approve anything above what we've already appropriated, it's going to come out of, I think, $1 million we have in reserves.
In Lowell, like
In
in
Lowell,
their
yeah.
account balance in Lowell would be
Right.
right.
Right. And I'm sorry I don't have the balance with me. I know Heather is going to bring our account balances to the council meeting at 7. So.
Would you say that the Durangos take priority over the other 2 trucks for proactive policing?
Over the other 2 vehicles?
Yeah, there was a truck for like special ops.
Yes, they'll provide us more in return as far as putting the marked vehicles back out on the street. So when we replace those SRO vehicles, we're not replacing them, we're just taking them from those school resource officers and putting them on the street immediately, so.
Those are 36,000 a piece as well, so we're looking at.
And so what are we accomplishing today? What are we doing? Are we making yes or no's on how will this be organized and what will we do?
I think they're looking for some direction. Are we willing to appropriate more funds for some of these items? And if we are, we might as well go ahead and say we are. If we're not, then we might as well say we're not.
Yeah, that's our request of
Ask you to come back for the 2017 budget.
That's one of the questions I asked the chief when we were in our finance committee meeting, is if we say, based on looking at our fund balances or whatever, no, we can't do that this year, what will happen? And then, I don't know if you want to repeat your answer or whatever.
In regards to overtime,
Or
down the line?
all the above, yeah.
Okay. If you were to say no on the 145,000, we are really going to have to ratchet back security at events downtown, Warder Park, Riverfront, Big Four. Shifts will be left short. We will not be able to fill the shifts, which poses in my opinion, a danger to both the citizen and the officer as well, to work continuously short. Those are just, I'm not trying to sound gloom and doom, but that's what will happen, is you'll be asking guys to work 5 officers overnight in the city of Jeffersonville on a Friday night. It's probably not a very good idea.
How many runs do you make on Friday night?
I can get the stats for you. On average, they stay very busy from 9:30 to 3:30. Once the bars start closing up, that's usually the time they get their paperwork done. So second shift, 2 to 10, you're probably not going to stop very much.
And we would have to deny vacation. People who want to take a vacation, if the shift's short, we'd have to deny vacation, and they would have to work, so people would get vacations. Cutting back on overtime. We've been hit this year with a lot of events downtown, including a Pride Parade, we're having to show support. And even so, for next year, we've got that Abbey Road coming, so overtime is, if we maintain a minimum on the street, If it goes one below minimum, we'll put out for overtime. If it doesn't get it, we'll let them work with one overtime. But if it goes 2 below, then we're dealing with serious officer safety, and we'll make it mandatory overtime.
And the thing that we didn't touch, those are just the things that would just go away, but I tend to look at the more proactive side as to what the administration and direction of the police department is with proactive patrol, the traffic division. Those are things that we would not be able to offer. And that proactive patrol is, I don't know if you guys know much about it, is fantastic when it comes to street crimes and serving warrants and getting dope off the streets and taking care of residential complaints. And that would just simply go away. And that's something that I think, in my opinion, that every neighborhood in the city needs to see those guys. Bike patrol, same thing. That would go away.
Do we do the boat patrol every weekend?
Yes.
How many officers does that take?
Normally 2. Some, you may get 3, but that's rare.
Is that is that overtime?
Here recently, because we added some new boat operators, because we lost
train them.
something last year. So we've been doing 3, but normally, every weekend, if we work, it would do 2 officers.
Is that overtime?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that overtime not funded by state grant?
That's over, no.
The boat patrol
No, the boat patrol, that overtime straight from our budget.
comes from our budget, okay.
I think the only grant overtime that we have right now is pedestrian safety, I think, and it's not very much.
So have there been discussions about cutting that out then?
There have been discussions as far as ratcheting it down as the opportunities, but again, I just don't think that that's the position that we need to be in right now as far as taking away bike patrol and the proactive and the extra patrol in the neighborhoods and the traffic.
Well, that I understand. The boat patrol is what I was referring to, no?
There hasn't been any talks of reducing that now, basically because this is the heavy boating season. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, between now and Labor Day. Weather permitting, I mean, if the weather's bad, we don't go out. If the river's high, we don't go out. So there's no, if they signed up for that day, that goes away. We don't pay guys to sit around or anything like that. But if the weather's out, it's nice out, the guys on the boat will be out.
What other agencies are out?
Clark County Sheriff's Department, Metro, of course, is basically full-time out there. And I don't know the Sheriff's Department schedule, but I know they're out a lot.
Coast Guard's out as well. And DNR.
You'll see DNR occasionally. Don't see the Coast Guard a whole lot.
Mainly on special events where DNR actually patrols, but they're usually there when you call them. So if you call them, they're there, they've got a boat ready. Otherwise, they only come out on special events.
I'd just make a comment about kind of the budget in general. When we do the budget, I'll speak for me, I want to know what the needs are. Whatever they are. If we need 50 cars in the 2017 budget, I need that line item. I want that. I want to know that. We actually asked for that last year and we got no input back. I'm not blaming anybody in this room. It was pushed back on us. What I need to know what is your need, and even as Scott kind of said, maybe these folks are phantom officers or they're not real yet. Just put it down there so we know.
Right.
And then we look at the money that we have, and then we say, here's how much we got, or here's how much you got. Then you guys have to prioritize, because we've been very fortunate the last probably 8 years. We've been able to come back mid-year at any point and appropriate more money. We still can this year. You know, we're in this room talking about can we even afford cars? Well, that needs to be, you know, as we're continuing to add officers, we need to say, can we even afford to do that if we can't even afford the car or, you know, the shotgun, whatever you need. So, you know, I think if I recall right, when in our finance meeting, the overtime was most critical. And I thought the chief said, Chief Kavanaugh, not McCoy, said that the laptops, you know, we may be able to hold off and put in the next budget, and the vehicles as well. That's what I thought I heard him say. I don't know if Lisa or Matt remembers that, or you, Scott, but I'm very I cannot support going into our reserves $500,000, we're mid-year, when we don't know what the rest of the year is going to hold. I mean, we may have some, we don't know what's going to hold. And so we need to, as we budget each year, know what we're facing and then deal with it at budget time from my perspective. And, anyway.
Your ask for overtime is 145,
Yes, sir.
and your ask for the computer is
116.
16?
It's
131.
131, 750,
Use the mounting station also.
131.
Oh, okay.
131 what?
750.
If we were to reduce the overtime by some, I don't know, a round number, 100,000, would you be able to work with that, or do you just?
We'd probably fall short and have to cut some things, which may include, like Major Hubbard said, some vacations and some other services that, like patrol and river patrol and some things like that.
Then you also said you were one vehicle short based on the number of officers you have, or you will be short very soon, one vehicle?
Provided that everything stays the way it is now and there's no breakdowns, and I just don't think that we should operate on the hope that no cars break down.
So
Yes,
if you got two vehicles, you'd have every person manned with a vehicle plus an extra.
Plus one extra for 90 officers.
From a vehicle standpoint, that's where I would be, is that I'd support two vehicles, because then you have that one extra in case you do have some maintenance problems.
I can support 2 vehicles.
And I would support the computers, because I'm just talking for me.
Well, a question that I had about computers, because then we jumped right into cars, which is a much bigger ticket item. Currently, everybody has one. Everybody you're going to get has one. But they're old and they need to be cycled out. Is that what I heard you say? Or are there going to be cops without one?
If we don't
If we don't do anything right now, if we wait and put it into the budget for next year, will anybody be without a computer?
You'll have, I believe, the 2 going to the academy and one of the 5 that are out there now. So a total of 3.
So if we lived in a fantasy world where no computers broke, you'd still be 3 short.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
This 131 is for 30?
For 30 plus the mounting stations.
I'm sorry.
And I'll just finish my thought, and then for overtime, I would support overtime, but probably something a little bit less, and see how good your management skills are as far as being able to work around it. That's just saying my 2 cents. So I'd probably support, I don't know, 100,000 on overtime, and see what happens as far as managing the overtime. Just giving you my perspective to the council and to you all.
And if I can follow up, my perspective would be much the same. I'd be willing to do the overtime, but wait on maybe do 10 laptops. And not because I want to tell you guys you can't have laptops or can't have cars. I think these should be things as close as we can get to being the normal budgetary process, and I wasn't around last time when kind of sounds like some shenanigans, election year things were happening. I don't know, and I don't want to know, so nobody tell me. You can't really have it seems like what we've gotten into is almost 2 different budgetary cycles that are occurring. And I'd like to limit that as much as possible. So whatever we have to have, and I'd be for 2, I could even be pushed towards 3 cars, because I don't think 1 extra would be enough. Overtime, I could get pushed to, wherever kind of the high mark is that everybody on this council would be, and say that get more in overtime just to get by with maybe 10 computers. So that's where I would be at. But then, when it comes budget time, put all of these things back in there, and we'll collectively, I think, find a way to do it, but I think I want it to be in the regular budget.
I'd like to just point out also, last year was an election year as far as the budget goes, but it was also, you guys were thrown into budget time as soon as you assumed command of the police department. The administration changed, and boom, it was budget time. And you really had a very narrow window of time to figure out what you had, what you were going to finish out the end of the year with, and what you needed for the following year. So I know the budget hasn't been perfect for you guys this year, but I think that plays a lot into it. You didn't even know how to ask for what you needed this year, last year, because you weren't
Yeah, we were, I mean, it was all new to us last year, and I appreciate everybody here working with us as far as our newness. To get back to the overtime, again, I can't predict when an officer gets hurt, whether it's at home or it's on the street. I can't predict FMLA, and as we get into the event season, and I can't predict any type of natural snow events, windstorms, stuff like that. So the last thing that I want to do is come back here in November and go, hey, oh, by the way, I need $75,000 to get us through to, or whatever it is, $45,000 to get us through to the end of the year. I can't predict that. At the end of the day, I mean, I think the trust that you all have with us as department heads to manage the overtime and make necessary cuts and additions where is needed, I appreciate your all's faith in us to do that. On the laptops, again, if we did 10, I'm going to be back in here, like Mr. Samuel said, for saying, hey, next year I need 50 laptops. And you'll know where, I don't know what the cost that's going to be. I'm assuming somewhere up around $185,000 versus doing it in increments. And that's the only reason that we did it in increments or asked for it in increments like that, because it appeared cheaper, and we're trying to get as many miles out of what we have now.
The only problem, Chief, is if we know it's going to go into the budget, we set that money aside, and then we spend every bit, probably and then some, but we spend every bit of our revenue. And then what's happened is we put all that money in a bucket and for this year, and now we're coming back with more requests. And it would be much better if on the front end we knew that, and you don't even have to ask for anything more. You just go purchase the stuff.
Well, in overtime, what did we start the year out at, 480?
Yeah, I'm not talking about overtime on that.
Let me just address this. In 2014, appropriate was 480. We spent 540,000 in 2014. In 2015, you gave us 480 again. We spent 650. We had to come back and ask for it. We asked for more money, we got 480 again, so here we are again. So it's not, boom, this year, this has gone on, and we keep getting the same amount, and so we keep having to come back.
And again, that sounds like I'm anti, and I'm not anti at all.
Yeah.
But yet we continue our boat patrols. We start a new bike program. We keep adding stuff, which I think is great for feeling safe in the community. No problem. But if you know you've got this much money to spend in overtime, yet we're not cutting any of those others back, all it is a game. You guys just say, well, we'll just go back to them and they'll give us more money. And that's what we've always done. In my 9 years, I think every time we get asked, we give more money. My big concern is, which I keep saying, is our extra pot of money is about gone. And whether we say no this year or say no next year after that, we don't have it to go to the well for. And I'm trying to put the brakes on a little bit, but that's just my...
Plus, also this year, we were hit with the biggest circuit breakers we've had since I've been on the council.
Yep.
Our first year was the first one, it was just 2.8, and now, that was a huge hurt. And then we were very careful when we did those, reductions to meet the circuit breakers. We took it all out from under council. And what kind of worried me at the time was, took out of insurance. Tonight we have $1 million claim on our list for insurance. What?
That one's covered.
We make
Yes,
those,
I know.
we make those quarterly payments.
But what I'm saying is, when you're talking about making
No,
payments for is $1 million. Also, all of the clinic expenses are on tonight's claims. So,
That all comes out of
We're
that
just
health
getting hit,
insurance
yeah.
line item, $1 million.
but what I'm saying was, we saved budgets because we took out from insurance and we took out from council's budget. So we did not take away from anybody's budget. We're getting hit that hard with it. That's what I'm trying to get across. We're trying to do everything we can to preserve their budgets, but
And the circuit breakers, from what I understand, are going to be continuing going up.
well, that's right.
That's what I was told today.
Chief, I missed the overtime discussion. I apologize for being late on that. What was the reason for the increase?
This year specifically.
In a nutshell.
We've had 12 officers on light duty since January 1 of 16 to the present date. 5 employees, including civilians, on FMLA. We enhanced our training and completed our state mandated training in the first quarter of the year, where we had been spreading it out throughout the course of the year. We did everything in the first half of the year, which affected our June numbers, if you would. The personal vacancies, when you have 2 officers leave, it affects an entire shift. It's overtime just about every day until you fill those spots. Those 2 spots still haven't been filled technically because those officers are an FTO. It continues to create overtime. Those are unforeseen things. I mean, I would never imagine somebody would leave the Jeffersonville Police Department. But it happened twice in 2 months.
So if we did 3 cars, that would leave you with 2 extra in the event there was an accident or something of that nature?
That's right.
How many
As of right
cars
now.
were going to be, how many of those cars were for the school resource officers?
Well, ideally, all 3 of them would be so that they can use the 3
I could
marked
take the
cars
3.
currently to go to-
I could take the 3 marked vehicles from the school resource officers and put those back out on the street.
Okay.
If you wanted to go that route, that's what would happen.
And
Well, we were talking about how there would be 1 extra car.
Right,
Maybe I misunderstood that.
right now.
Yeah. Right now, there's 1 extra.
One short.
No.
Right now,
By
you're
the end of the year,
short.
we're 1 short.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So if we got 3, then it would replace
Dude is good.
the 3. Do we have more than 3 resource officers?
Yeah, 4. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if we did the 10 laptops, 3 to 4 cars, what could you live with if we cut the overtime and not cut services? Or
And
is that the exact figure you?
That's what I project, barring any unforeseen, like I said, natural disasters or more people getting hurt. That's what I would see without cutting services.
Right.
something that,
So if we went down to 100,000, and then if something does happen, then you come back, we kind of have this discussion again.
Yeah, this fund.
I could come back and explain to you why I would need
Yeah.
additional monies and give you a reason.
Okay.
that I can,
So I would support 100,000, because I don't mind you coming back and talking to us.
I don't mind coming back and talking to you either.
I would support 100,000 in 3 to 4 cars and 10 laptops at this point.
I do want to add, I don't think the rest of the council, something that we brought up in finance, but I don't think the AC hit on. If he did, I apologize, but something that's not fault of their own is, he did hit on it a little bit, all the special events that have been added this year, and a lot of it is with parks, which they are benefiting now from their sponsorship program, which it's benefiting their department, but it's been hurting other departments. Number one is the police department, because they got to provide security for those events, and our events keep getting bigger and bigger, require more manpower. Another thing that it kind of laid into is, and it's, once again, it's no fault of the administration, but the ones signing up for those are some of the highest paid officers, because the on-duty, on-the-street officers, they're so wore out by their shifts and their call volume and all that, they're just not signing up for OT. So we're spending OT on these special events for our highest paid officers. So it's what we kind of suggest look to in the budget, that maybe park sponsorship, we can kind of figure in the extra
Right, we talked about,
OT security for the police department to offset
So
that.
maybe go to parks for 45,000 or half of that, is that what you're saying?
They won't have it to give.
No.
Okay.
Not that, but where we're saying, when we start talking budgets for next year, that they start when Simpson goes out, you know, when he gives the breakdown for each event, that maybe in these bigger
Well,
events,
that's
we
right.
can add in the security costs.
With parks, I think we need to create that fund, so.
What did
all
you
the
need on the record?
Partnership money comes in, we could use some of that to help with budgetary issues like this.
I agree with that.
I'm
I
sorry?
agree with that.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
How much would it cost, or what amount would you need for 3 vehicles if we went that route? I'm trying to get to amount so we can have a vote on something.
The Durangos are 38,758, so times 3
Well,
is
before you do that,
116,274.
how much- Callie,
116.
before you do that, in this letter, there is so in 2016, they're going to receive Jeff Housing, FBI, and school resource payments at 60. And then there's 2 more payments coming for $25,875 from Greater Clark County School.
Those,
Does that go
That goes
directly
back to the
pay?
general, the school resource officer funds.
Yeah, that is figured in during budget times, those revenues coming in.
Kelly, I'm sorry.
That's not
You said
anything
116
extra.
what?
yeah, we talked about it. at
Oh,
the
where's the
finance
letter that
meeting,
you're
too.
speaking about? I just have one sheet.
274.
I don't know, I didn't.
We have the,
Chief passes out, I think you only had a couple copies.
I had 2. Do you have any more of those?
The computer.
I got one more question for you about the car.
Yes, sir.
100,000 for overtime.
If, let's say we have our one extra and the magical world we live in falls apart and we have 2 that get hurt, 2 that are not functioning, so now we're a car short. So you come back and you say, I need another car. From knowing that you need a car to getting the car, how much time passes in that? Maybe I didn't ask
From the
that.
time that I order a car until it's street ready,
Correct.
I can get it done probably in 3 weeks, maybe less.
It's in stock, all they
Just
gotta do is
depends.
equip it.
It just depends. I mean, if I ask the Jones Group right now for a Dodge Charger, get it wrapped, put the lights in, maybe 10 days. But on a normal doing business, without everybody rushing around, a couple weeks. But I mean, if I called the guy and said, hey, I need this ASAP, I can get it probably 10 days or less.
But, Chief, what happens now? If every car is spoken for, it's kind of what I think I'm hearing. And I know we have accidents, we have things happen.
Right.
What does that officer have to do?
What's going to have to happen, what would have to happen is they would have to ride doubles.
Okay.
And
You
then
said
you're
that.
taking another car off the street,
Yeah.
longer response time.
So they have to finish one call before they get to another
Yes,
where.
that's
they can-
correct.
yeah.
So
So can
if
you
a-
calculate how many 10 laptops, how much 10 laptops would cost?
Roughly, sir, I would say in the range of, 10 would be in the range of 37,000 plus docking stations.
I'll go 38.
Some lights on it?
Oh, with the docking?
yeah, but he's
Yep,
saying.
38, and then another 5,500, so you're looking about probably around 45,000. That's just
For the laptop?
math off the top of my head.
That's what I thought. I said 50, but. 261, 274?
Lisa mentioned she wanted to do it separately. Do you want to still do it separately?
Well, if we've come to an agreement, that's fine, but of course, I supported the full and overtime only because if something happens at one of these events, I don't want to be getting that phone call saying, well, you cut their budget, you knew the security was needed, type of scenario. And then, of course, I supported the laptop, but so whatever you all want to do is fine. I just did not support getting all the vehicles at this time.
At the event,
Go ahead. I was going to move along.
at the events, they have hired, at least on one, I think they're going to do it on one other, a security company.
I think they, I think they hired ESG or Securitas, one of the two. And I'm not here to speak ill of anybody, but they're basically ushers. And if something happens, they look to the port of exits where we are for remediation of whatever, or mitigating whatever problem there is. So, and I think some of those companies are trained. They're not to engage or physically fight or detain anybody, to find us or call us, and then we're going to, so we have to be down there anyway. I'm not saying they're not a help, but that's...
So that's not something that we could use to,
I would be very skeptical of any event where alcohol is in the vicinity and you're having events with large crowds and not enough police presence.
They'll be there pretty much to call us. And it reminds me of a new commercial they have out now with a bank robbery, you get called, and security officer standing there, to do something. Oh, I'm not a security officer, I'm just a, let you know, guess what, there's a bank robbery. That's basically,
Yeah, that's what you get.
In an effort to move things along, I'll make a motion that the council supports $117,000 for the purchase of 3 vehicles.
There's a motion.
And that's the 3 Durangos.
The 3 Durangos. I think when you added it up, it was 16,000 and change, so I'm just going to make it 117,000.
There's a motion and a second, just for discussion. I was going to say before you made the motion that I would support 4, so you could replace all 4 school resource officers at the same time, but if it's 3, it's 3. Is there any other discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Seems like there's a little bit of, there's some support for, 10 computers, which is 45,000? That's right. So I'll make a motion, we support up to $45,000 for upgrading of computers.
And, I'm sorry, Ed, did you have a place you wanted that money to come from?
It's all coming from
All
Lowell.
from Lloyd.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second for 10 computers, 45,000 out of Lloyd. Anything further?
That's also including the mounts.
And that does include the mounts? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
And I know this one might be a little more controversial, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Up to 100,000 for overtime out of Lowell.
There's a motion and a second for 100,000 out of Lloyd. And again, as I said before, we've never taken overtime out of Lloyd, so I won't support that. I think that opens you up. We're getting ready to go into contract negotiations, where, salaries are going to be negotiated, overtime, minimum staffing is going to be negotiated. You start sending the signal that we're okay with using income taxes to pay salaries, then that is a whole new revenue stream to be exploited.
Well, to add to that, being on the negotiation team, I know we were very strong on we will not use Lloyd for our
That was-
100 series or operating, so
Right.
I agree with you on that.
So I'll vote no on that.
We have in the past.
Yeah, we have for one time. I'm almost sure.
Maybe it was before you were on,
Never
but we've
budgeted.
used it.
It's never been
For
budgeted.
more an emergency, that's
It's
right.
been
We don't
emergency.
budget it, but
That's correct.
because
That's
we
my
had
memory.
it in there before. And I would make the comment, I said this publicly at the Finance Committee meeting, with the property tax caps and with our general fund levy only going up 2.6% or whatever the kind of the general amount that is, we can, that little increase cannot sustain adding a few police, a few fire, anybody else, and do anything else. And so I think the growth that we have, our opportunities, are going to have to use those dollars that are come from income taxes. That's what's really growing in our area. And I have fought against using that, but I think we're going to have to really think through that, maybe not contract that, when you go through negotiations, but we need to think through that, because that's our only growth funds, in my opinion, that even can keep up. So I think we may have to consider relooking at that, only because of the combination of the property tax caps and the small levy increase we get. It just, as you know, we're already going backwards now, and we keep wanting to add, and so I think we need to look at that.
Let me say,
Matt,
I just
where
want,
do you suggest pulling that money from?
The money, I would suggest pulling it from the general fund.
The reserves.
Just reserve.
Right. And that's where all this is coming from. It's coming from Lloyd funds, Lloyd reserves. We've got $1 million, I think, don't quote me. I think it's $1 million at the end of the year in Lloyd. And if we approve all these from Lloyd, we're using 26% of that. That's a big number. Whereas the general fund is projected to be about 5 million in the black at the end of the year. I'd much rather use 100,000 out of 5 million. And that's why I'm going to vote that way.
I like that idea.
I'd probably be with Matt on this one.
I'll tell you what direction, I'll rescind my motion from it coming from Lowell, with the idea that if it seconds rescinded, I'll do it again out of general fund.
Who made that second?
I did for laptops.
I did for overtime.
No, we're doing for overtime this time.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
over.
So that's-
Gotcha.
This is just overtime.
I could say my motion or my second stands. I've heard that before. I will rescind my second.
It was my motion stand.
Your motion stands.
So with no motion on the floor, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we go with $100,000 of overtime from general fund. surplus, general fund.
There's a motion and a second for 100,000 out of the general fund for overtime. Anything further? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Real quick, with the understanding that has to be advertised.
Right. That's what we're gonna move forward with. I'll get those numbers, make sure Heather has those numbers.
Just to be clear, Mr. Owen, was that 3 or 4 vehicles that you guys approved?
I think that was 3 Durangos for 117,000. If you can get 4 for 117,000. The motion was for the dollar amount.
If I get you the 4 for 117, can you throw me the other 45,000?
Like I said, come back and talk.
Why wasn't this before?
I'm sure we could do business.
I'd say yes.
You're welcome back.
I'd say yes.
You're welcome to come back.
I'll be back.
See what magic can work.
You do it, you got mine.
He's got dirt on John Jones.
Hey, it's no more fun for us than it is for you guys. I know it sucks. But I think that's all, unless you have anything else.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Motion and a second, we're adjourned
Thank you
at
all.
18:50.